Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JKWD podcast. Hope you are having a good time wherever you are, even amidst your social distancing and you leaving your house with 4 layers of t-shirts over your face. Hopefully the last time you went to pick up lunch, they weren't trying to decide whether to call the cops or hand over the order that you already paid for. Kelvin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Getting a little batty over here. It's all right.
Hey, I have that effect on a lot of people.
You might be able to tell. We're brought to you today by our friends at Kettle and Fire, who will package up some bone broth and send it your way. If you're having trouble getting soup from the store, I don't know about where you are, but if we want to even just do the pickup and not browse the grocery store aisles, we have to order the day before and hope that they have whatever. So It's about a 13-hour lead time for grocery pickup at this point. But our friends at Kettle and Fire will just go grab it out of their own warehouse and ship it to you. And I've been seeing the shipping trucks up and down the street all the time. So we know that they are delivering. If you want 10% off your order, use code BetterHumanhood when you go to checkout. So that's kettleandfire.com, KETTLEANDFIRE.com. Fill up your box when you go to checkout. Use code BetterHumanhood. They will give you 10% off. So we have Jane Carter on the show today. She is a yoga teacher, horseback riding instructor for, we say, differently abled people.
Yeah.
She is a stress management coach in the business field, and she has an organization called the Humanization Project, which works to humanize people behind bars. We talk a lot about their situation. Yeah.
We might want to rephrase it a little bit about humanizing people behind bars.
That'd be people in prison.
Us out here who are considering that.
Yeah. I don't know how you want me to rephrase it, but instead of removing stigma, how's that?
That's the one.
Removing the stigma of prison. It all comes down to helping people make better choices for each other and the world. Is really kind of what her overarching milieu is. Did I use that word correctly?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. We talk a lot about isolation and our current pandemic situation, particularly as it is playing out in prison systems, and for huggers like Kelvin and Jim. And
I'm a marked man.
Yeah, I hug my friends. I miss that, but I'm not going to go run next door and hug strangers like I wasn't before. I'm not going to have that issue. But this is affecting. The isolation is affecting a lot of us in a lot of different ways. So you're going to hear a lot of me and Jin in the beginning. Kelvin kind of sat quiet for a little while. I think at one point he even muted himself. I don't know whether that was a sign that I needed to bring him in.
No, I had noises and stuff about the girl, okay. So I just wanted to.
Okay. I wasn't. You
no hidden messages. I promise. Jeff.
You muted yourself, and then I started checking my phone to see if I was getting a text to say, "Hey, you let me talk, dude."
No.
But I found
that was I was completely into your conversation.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to shut up because now you're hearing me a lot again. And we'll replace some music. And on the other side of this, you're going to hear Jim.
Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good morning.
Good. How are you?
We're awesome.
Great.
How are you?
Doing well. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a nice day so far.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
What time is it where you were?
It is noon.
Oh, okay.
Where are you guys?
We are on the East Coast. I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and Kelvin's in the Syracuse, New York area.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Okay. I was worried that we were getting you up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Oahu.
Oh, yeah, no, I live in Richmond, Virginia now.
Oh, okay. That's
that's a big time shift. Okay.
It is a big time shift.
Yeah.
I much prefer the other time zone than this time zone, but yeah, I'm back here. I grew up in Virginia. I was in Hawaii for about 12 years, but I've been back for a couple years.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. So Calvin, I feel like I guess people won't be able to see when it's the audio, but is that your real background behind you, or is that like a Zoom background?
That's a virtual background. It is of a local. That's our local Onondaga Lake here.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
It looks beautiful. When next time I decide to actually go walk by it, when there's not 800,000 people that might be breathing me something harmful. Probably.
Well, and when it's not snowing again.
Oh yeah, because it actually it's snowing right now here, so it's.
Oh wow.
So
That's cool.
it's kind of Syracuse is a wonderful place. It's cool stuff. But yeah, so no, that's not my window. I discovered virtual backgrounds with Zoom, and I tell you, it's just a lot of fun sometimes. I got a great boardroom I put up when I want to be really snippety,
Nice. Yeah, I feel like I could use a virtual background. I have a hedgehog behind me, so that's what that is.
That a head shop, did you say?
A hedgehog.
Oh. Yeah. I thought you said I had a head shop. I'm like, really? So what are you selling? How about that cannabis oil? No.
No, definitely not. Definitely not in Virginia anyway.
No.
Okay. Well,
all right. Well, welcome to the show. Usually what we do is we start by, rather than just reading your bio like everybody else could, we ask you to introduce yourself, tell us what your mission is, and tell us why that's your mission.
Oh, wow, yes. So, I'm Jen Carter, and my mission is to help the world feel better. And I do that nowadays by teaching yoga and meditation and teaching stress management and a few other things as well. But it's my mission. I guess it's kind of been my mission since I was a little kid in a different way, but I started out as a kid wanting to, quote, save the planet, and grew up to become a scientist and was working in conservation for about 12 years, and had the realization that all the science in the world isn't going to do it unless people want to implement it and people want to believe it. And I had started teaching yoga kind of on the side. Long story as to how I got into that, but I realized, if people don't feel well, they don't make good choices. They don't want to make better choices, and they don't think of each other, and they don't think of the planet. And so to me, helping people feel better gets at helping the planet feel better, because people that feel better make better choices for themselves, make better choices for each other, and make better choices for the world. So that's kind of what I'm all about, is helping people feel better. I do it in a bunch of different ways, but yoga and meditation is kind of the main way, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Thanks.
Right. So it feels like there's a lot to unpack there. So I'm going to start trying.
Sure.
And the reason it feels like there's a lot to unpack there is because you started in conservation. Obviously, climate science is important right now, and for whatever reason, we handle these things politically, which means that it's just belief against belief, and really, science doesn't care. Science is going to just keep doing what science does, because that
Yeah.
But we're also in the middle of this like pandemic quarantine that we've been talking about every week because it's front of mind for everybody. And not only is science sciencing, but a lot of people are having harder times with their stress management, and they're not going to their yoga classes, and
Right.
they're we have a couple of local breweries that do like a beer and yoga thing, and now they're going virtual with it.
Right.
So they're doing their classes on Zoom. I don't know about the local studios over here, but
Yeah.
So I guess where did you kind of hit the wall with studying versus implementing, and what brought you into you said you were kind of doing the yoga thing on the side. What made that kind of the thing to go forward with?
Right. Yeah, there was a few different things involved as to how the whole shift happened. So I had been in my science job for a while, and we were continually struggling for funding, as a lot of science does.
Is this were you in a commercial lab or a university? Or?
So I worked for the Smithsonian.
Okay.
And we were part of the National Zoo. But my boss and I were stationed in Hawaii, and it was just the two of us for 11 years. And we were the only two people in the world who were using human fertility techniques to conserve coral reefs. So we were basically, just like a person would go to a fertility clinic and get sperm count and density and those things, and then maybe have their sperm frozen so that you could use it later. We were basically doing that for coral. And we were in Hawaii because at the time when I started, which was 2005, the coral in Hawaii was quite healthy compared to the rest of the world. And so we were developing techniques there and then using it to conserve coral all over the world. So we would go to the Caribbean and go to Australia and things like that. But we were struggling for funding because even being part of the Smithsonian, you're still what's being called on soft money, right? So you're still trying to get grants and things like that. And so we had been struggling. There was a moment where we were struggling so much that my boss had basically said to me, 6 months from now, we will have no lab. You should probably look for another job. And I loved my job and I loved my boss, but I had not been loving science as a culture, kind of just for various reasons. And so I thought, I don't want to just get another science job. What else could I do? And I was in a yoga class with my yoga teacher one day, and as she was teaching, I was like, oh, I could teach yoga. I used to be a gymnastics coach for a long time when I was younger, and did gymnastics when I was a kid. And so I took her out to dinner and started to say, I think I'd like to teach yoga. And before I could say it, she was like, yes, you should be a yoga teacher. And so then we ended up getting funding at that time, and the lab didn't close. So now I was certified to teach yoga, and I still had my lab job. So I was working in the lab and then teaching yoga like a couple nights a week, like kind of just for fun. And then a few things happened. There was one moment where we were still struggling for funding, a different year, whatever. I went to a Super Bowl party, and I love football. Like, don't get me wrong. Football is great. Went to the Super Bowl party, and I was sitting watching the game, and I was watching the commercials, and I think we had just gotten rejected for a grant that would have been maybe like $500,000, and that would have funded our lab for like 5 years or something, right? And we had gotten rejected, and I'm watching this football game, and I'm like, they're spending billions of dollars on this game. You're spending billions of dollars on these commercials, and you can't give us $500,000 to save the coral reefs, and not even just $500,000 to save the coral reefs, like to make it so that we can all breathe in 50 years. Like, people don't realize coral is just as responsible for our oxygen, the oxygen that we have in the world, as the rainforest. So if it goes away, like, just to be blunt, like, we go away, basically, right? And so I was sitting there like, where are our priorities? You know, if you can spend this much money in a football game, but you can't, like, conserve the planet we live on, like, there's some kind of disconnect here. Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking about that and just thinking, you know, the science can be there. And for the most part, it is. There's solutions to many of our problems out there, and they're just not being implemented. We're not choosing to prioritize them, or we're not choosing to believe them, right, at all. And so I started thinking, you know, maybe there's a different way to get at this. At that same time, I had been teaching yoga for a while then. I also teach therapeutic horseback riding lessons to kids and adults with different disabilities, and I really enjoy that too. And I came home one day, I don't remember if I had come home from teaching yoga or teaching horseback riding lessons, but my boyfriend at the time, I came home and I started telling him about my students and like what they had done and all of this stuff, and I was like very animated and excited. And he stopped me and he looked at me and he said, you know, when you come home from the lab and I ask you how you're doing, you're like, okay. But when you come home from teaching, you have to tell me about every single student and what you taught and what they said and all this. And he was like, you should think about what makes you happy. And so I started thinking about both those things together, you know, what's going to make a difference and what's actually making me happy. And I realized that by teaching yoga and meditation and all those kinds of things, we can help to get at people making those choices to implement the things that the science is saying. The science is important and people should be doing it. If it had made me happy, I probably would have stuck with it. But it wasn't making me as happy as teaching. And so I made that shift. But also, the way that I teach yoga, I teach a lot of philosophy and a lot of meditation, not just like, let's, you know, sweat and make some poses with our body. I teach it that way. And so I think those things kind of can help to inform people as to, you know, how to treat each other and things like that.
Yeah. So have you started working? Are you working your kind of favorite science causes into some of that philosophical teaching? Are you doing things like trying to raise money for for the research and
right
awareness on the side?
I haven't been able to meld the two quite as well as I would like yet, but that's definitely like in my vision. I'm still kind of trying to get my yoga business built up a little bit more, and so a lot of times right now I'm really just working with clients one-on-one here privately in Virginia and stuff like that. But it's definitely, you know, I want a bigger vision soon.
Right. So are you working one-on-one out of your home, out of a studio? Do you go to people's homes? How does that work?
Yeah, so I teach almost exclusively privately. I teach private individuals and groups and businesses, and I do go to people most of the time. Okay. So I go into homes. I have some private groups where like I have a group of ladies right now. They meet usually in their like their common area of their condo building, things like that. Right now I'm teaching in this room.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that changed now that we're kind of...
Yeah, it shifted a bit, but I've always taught privately online as well. Like I have clients in Seattle and South Carolina and different places, and so I don't mind that. But I've never done I've never done online group classes until recently. So that's been a little bit of an adventure. But you know, so grateful that we have the technology that can happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I also do stress management workshops for different organizations, and I have a business partner who works with me on that. So we give talks about stress and how it affects your body and how it affects your business, and then provide proactive solutions for how you can work on that.
Are you seeing an uptick right now at this moment in history? Are you seeing an uptick in stress, or is that just kind of on hold because you're working with businesses and now everybody's going distributed?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm seeing an uptick in stress, but not seeing an uptick in bookings, right?
Gotcha.
So, I think, as far as businesses and organizations go, like they're in sort of damage control and doing different things and not thinking like, oh, this would be helpful if we brought these people in right now, even though it would, but it's just not their priority at the moment. We've been working a lot with 911 dispatchers lately, and we were putting together a program for them kind of to try to launch it nationally, and it's all been put on hold just because they're dealing with so much and don't have the time to work on it. Yeah.
Wow. So how do you blend all of that?
It's interesting. I feel like I'm just constantly doing different things. I always say I have like adult career ADD. Like I like to be doing a bunch of different things. And I feel like if I'm not doing a bunch of different things, I get bored. So, in addition to the things we've talked about, I also have a human rights organization that I run. So, it's all kind of about just helping people.
On the website it said activist. So I'm like, okay, that's what activist. Activist.
Yeah. I spent the last couple months lobbying at the Virginia General Assembly and thought we'd have a break from that to focus on my, quote, regular business. And now with everything that's going on, now we're advocating for the health and rights of people behind bars during the crisis. So it has not taken a turn, and if anything, it's taken an upturn. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit? About the organization and then about the work and then how it relates to specifically right now, the health crisis that has sort of hit New York, and it's going to hit, I don't know how it's been there. It's about to hit here in Georgia. We've got one person who has tested positive in a county jail locally. So that's about to.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting. So the organization that I have is called the Humanization Project, and our overall mission is to humanize people behind bars in the eyes of the general public. So most of the time we're telling their stories, we're doing interviews. We do interviews with people who have been behind bars and who have gotten out, who are doing like great work in the world. And then we also do interviews with people who are still behind bars, who are doing good things. And we talk to family members. We're hoping to talk to other people involved in the criminal justice system that do different things, just to humanize everybody kind of on all sides of things. So it's really great work. I love doing it. I love talking to people and hearing their stories. And some people are so resilient and amazing. Like it's incredible. But right now, with everything going on with the COVID-19 crisis, it's really showing the inadequacies of our prison system and our criminal justice system. Our prisons in this country are completely overcrowded. And so, the whole idea of social distancing when you're behind bars is just a complete joke. Like it's completely impossible. I mean, you just think about like, you're basically stuck in what amounts to like your bathroom with one other person whom you may or may not like. And good luck social distancing there. Some of them are in more like dormitory style places where they're on bunks and they're telling them to sleep head to foot, like that's going to fix it. Anyway. So it's kind of a total mess. And also just like, aside from the virus itself, like as a country, we're just warehousing people in prisons. It's costing the country billions upon billions of dollars. And most of the people, I would argue, usually don't need to be there anymore. There's all sorts of statistics. People age out of crime. Long sentences are not helpful. If anything, prison breeds violence. It doesn't fix the problem. We could go on and on. But with the crisis now, a lot of advocates around the country and a bunch of us here in Virginia are pushing to try to get people who will not be a threat to society released. And so we've had sort of different categories of people that were asking for release. So we've been pushing for that. We had a press conference here yesterday with over 40 different organizations, including the ACLU, and a bunch of different folks, asking the governor of Virginia to use his power to help release some folks, and then asking for releases in the jails as well, because that's a different system. Mm-hmm. And then also just advocating for the people, whether they get released or not, but the people that are still behind bars right now and that will remain behind bars, because it's, as you can imagine, it's hard to advocate for yourself when you're there, and they're kind of at the whim of the Department of Corrections. And what we're seeing here anyway, I don't know how it's, I know kind of how it's going in other states, but I can't speak for them as on the ground. Our Department of Corrections is saying, we're implementing these CDC guidelines, this is what's happening, and I believe that they really intend their best, and they think that they are. But then in each prison, we're seeing it's not actually being implemented correctly. The things that they say that they're doing are not being done. We're having some questions here about, we have some prison industrial complexes where the prisoners work in an industry. It's really, really, that whole system is a whole nother thing you can get into, right? They're working for basically like 80 cents an hour, and these industries are profiting like millions of dollars. It's basically slavery.
And that's everything from, maybe customer service answering phones to making license plates and toilet paper.
So in Virginia, I don't know that we have any customer service folks. We have license plates, yep. And we've got like print shops and milk plants and just different kind of industrial things. But at least maybe up until yesterday, they may have actually attempted to do something different yesterday, but they were having them go to work, and civilians are coming in who knows if they're sick or not, or carriers or not, exposing them, but then taking them back into their into the prison and separating them and claiming all these things for their safety that are basically just inconveniencing them, not actually helping them, and then sending them back to work where they can be exposed again. So we're seeing these like discrepancies and inadequacies, and so we're pushing for transparency and oversight, trying to figure out how to get that implemented. So
what's it like getting basic things like soap and hand sanitizer into prisons? I mean, is that I know you can't speak for everywhere, but is that an issue in Virginia?
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. So most of the time in prison in Virginia, you have to buy your own hygiene items. They come from a thing called commissary. So the guys that I was saying are in the industrial complex, they're making 80 cents an hour. That's the most you can make in a prison in Virginia. Most guys in Virginia have a more prison-related job, like they'll, one guy cleans the showers and some of the guys make the food and all this stuff. But the most you can make if you're not in an industry job is 45 cents an hour. Some of them make 15 cents an hour. Now, with that money that you make, you've got to buy like your own soap, your shampoo, all of your things, your razors, whatever it was you need for your hygiene. Some people have loved ones that can support them also, but a lot of people don't. And some people try to get a job within the prison and can't, like for whatever reason, maybe no fault of their own, maybe there's just no job open. So they're making no money. And then they're expected to pay for their own hygiene, right? And so at least in the prison where I have access to what's going on, a couple days ago, they gave them a single bar, like a single little tiny hotel soap, and told them to make it last. So that was their attempt at giving them, something to sanitize with at the moment. In that particular prison, they're claiming that the guards are sanitizing, and the guards are actually telling us that they're not getting to. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's difficult. It definitely can't, like, if I was like, oh, I want to send my partner some hand sanitizer, like I can't. Like you can't send anything into them. Like it all has to be ordered through the prison, through this commissary system. And so it's a racket really, right?
Right.
People profiting off of all of it. And so yeah, at the moment it's
and I'm sure that the prices are competitive with like CVS and right. Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, for everybody listening, Jen is shaking her head.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a side of life that I haven't actually heard much about. So, I mean, you see things, you hear things, but
Yeah.
you don't get these conversations.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's
Admittedly,
two
I haven't
sides of
gone to look
the
for these conversations, but it's like,
yeah.
so
There's two
what?
sides of the prison too, right? There's the prisoner population and there's the guard population.
There
Right.
is
So the guard population who gets to go home gets to take whatever they've got at home into the prison, whatever they get in the prison out with them.
Yep, exactly.
It's
Yeah, and it's really
Terms of terms,
it's detrimental to both populations.
Yeah.
A lot of the guards, a lot of them are not nice, but many of them are people that need a good job and are doing their best, and they're having to go into work whether they want to or not right now, and they're risking themselves, and yeah, it's not good. It's not a good situation for anybody.
So this population that you're working to get released, I forget the term you use, but I'm guessing it's close to like the not really dangerous ones.
Yeah. So
Maybe still a loaf of bread or something. What the general idea I have about prison that you get out of prison and then you're like, well, what do I do now?
yes,
So if you get them released,
yes. That's
where
a
do
great
they go?
question. Exactly. So the advocacy groups, we're working to advise on that as well. So there's avenues that the state could take. They could put people up in housing. They could put people up in hotels. There's things that can be done. There's states who have used eminent domain to put people in hotels or different facilities. We have some advocacy groups here in Virginia that they specialize in reentry and helping people when they come out. Mm-hmm. So we have some folks that have certain realtors and certain people that, like, as soon as people come out, they'll rent to them. And they know that they will. So there's ways around that, but it's definitely a consideration. And, aside from housing, when you come out of prison, you are usually on parole or probation. Mm-hmm. And so you're being monitored. And part of that monitoring is they want you to get a job, which, aside from the crisis, is a really big challenge when you come out of prison. As you can imagine, people don't want to hire people who have been in prison. But now nobody's working, right? Like the jobs are few and far between unless, you might be able to get something that's very specifically, for dealing with the crisis, maybe. That was one of the things that the Humanization tried to suggest to the governor, was to say, these people that you're letting out, they'll work for you to help with all of this going on if you want to do that. I doubt that's going to happen. But yeah, so all of that has to be considered. We don't want to just willy-nilly release people onto the streets and be like, good luck.
Good luck. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious, and they're doing that here, where we are, releasing the low danger criminals, and it's just kind of a weird dichotomy. It seems like every good move has a complementary. That's not. It creates another problem.
Oh yeah.
So, and I don't have ideas on any of it because but it's just questions I know are going to come up, and it's like, well, so how are we going to handle that? Yeah, there's probably a lot of people in jail that really shouldn't be there. Gives us as a society a lot to work on, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things, this crisis is a mess, but I hope it's showing us places where we can improve things and things that really do need to change, So
how long have you been doing this kind of work, this advocacy?
So the Humanization Project has been around for about a year, and it's an organization I started with my partner. So my partner is currently behind bars here in Virginia, and so he and I run the Humanization Project together. But we started it because he is a sociologist and studied criminology and criminal justice before he got locked up, and he was doing a bunch of different things. So he has had a program going where he was pairing up people behind bars with first-year criminal justice students, and they were writing letters back and forth to humanize people behind bars so they could see, like, oh, these are real human beings, like families and all that. People don't think about that, And so he had that going. He was doing research. He had a research paper come out last year about the role of hope and purpose behind bars, and we were getting ready to put together a book and doing a bunch of things. And finally one day I said, I think we should just make an organization out of all of these things that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you can imagine it's really hard to get things accomplished from behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was implementing a lot of the things that he was trying to do. And so we just
He's not giving you. They're not giving him the Zoom connection so you guys can just hang out.
No, unfortunately. Well, so supposedly, Virginia has video visits, and they've had them for a while. And then I hadn't done them because we usually have regular visits. But now that the crisis happened, they said, okay, more video visits and they'll be more accessible. I have not been able to get the thing to work. I have not been able to get an answer as to why it's not working. The company that's profiting off of you doing the video visits is saying, call the DOC, it's their problem. And then the DOC is saying, call this other number, call that other number. And then the number that's actually supposed to be able to help has had a full voicemail mailbox for about 3 months. And it's very like Kafka-esque where you're just like, I don't know what to do. But supposedly you're supposed to be able to video visit. I know a few people have been able to do it at different facilities, not the facility that he's at.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always like, it freezes in the middle and then stops, or you can't really hear it. Like, it's just a mess. So, yeah, unfortunately, no Zoom.
Well, half solutions.
So
Wow.
Now, the COVID crisis aside,
Mm-hmm.
prison's a very high stress time for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, both people serving and their loved ones.
Yeah.
How does that tie into kind of the other, even just in your brain or in your heart? How does that kind of work together with the other things that you're doing? I mean, you said kind of like you have job ADD, but these all sound like, to me, like they're serving the same purpose, just in different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, to me, it's just all different ways to try to help people feel better, and when people are behind bars and they can't advocate for themselves, something to help them feel better is knowing that people are out here advocating for them. When you have a loved one behind bars and you can't get an answer from the DOC, and you can call me up and say, do you know what's going on? And is there anybody trying to help? And I can say, yes, here's what's going on, and we are trying to help. That's making them feel better. So, like, I always, in my mind, everything that I do, from actually teaching physical yoga to teaching horseback riding lessons to doing this advocacy work, in my mind, is all yoga. So, yoga, like I said, some people think it's just those like physical poses on the mat, but that's an eighth of the actual practice of yoga. That's one limb, and there's 8 limbs, and so the first 2 limbs of yoga start out just kind of telling you like how to be a nice person and how to treat yourself and how to take care of yourself. And then the later limbs of yoga get into the practice of meditation and what that means and how you can use it in your life. And so for me, yoga doesn't have to look like making fancy shapes with your body. Yoga is just being a good person and helping each other and realizing we're all connected. And part of the reason that I teach yoga privately is because each person or each group I encounter needs something different. And that's the beauty of yoga. Like, Josh, you might want to learn to do a handstand in the middle of the room. We can do that. And Kelvin, you might just really need to relax, and like, we can do that. So
You've been studying us?
Maybe, no.
I was like, that was a little on the head, but
have
okay.
you been in my Zoom feed here?
I took a guess. But yeah, so to me, then when I'm out in the world working with, advocacy for people behind bars, or working with people with differently abled bodies or anything like that, to me, it's still let's figure out, how can we make you feel better? What do we need to do for you in this moment? And I love doing that. It's like a puzzle all the time. What can I do to help right now?
So I want to rewind back about 25 minutes when you said that when you said that when people are making a better, when people do better for themselves, they make better choices for others and for the world. How does that work, and how do you help bring that about? And
Sure, yeah.
kind of, yeah, where do you tell people to start if they want to do better for others in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of gets at the same thing. I feel like I say this a lot. Like, again, it's individual, and you kind of have to figure it out for each individual person, you know? Like, as far as feeling better, we have to think about what is it that's not making you feel good in the first place, right? It might be like mental stress, and so meditation, mindfulness might be the answer. It could be physical pain. You know, maybe you've had chronic neck pain for a really long time, and we need to figure out how to make that better. But when those things are going on, whether it's mental stress, physical stress, or, you know, emotional stress, whatever kind of stress, when you're dealing with those stresses, and then somebody asks you to do something like, I use this example a lot. So say that your knee hurts really badly and it just doesn't feel good to walk, and so you don't get around as well as you would like, and you're coming out of someplace, and you've got a soda can, and the trash can is like right there by your hand before you go to the car, but the recycle bin is like 20 yards down the sidewalk, and you're like, I should recycle, but my knee hurts, so I'm just going to dump the can in the trash can, right? And then make your way to your car. So even something as simple as that, you can see, like, when you don't feel good, it's hard to make that decision. Even if you know what the right decision is, it's hard to make that decision. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of getting to go and visit my first boyfriend ever, who was a really, really sweet person, and still is a very sweet person. And he had gotten out of a relationship, ended up with 2 kids to take care of on his own. One of the kids wasn't even his child originally, and he's still living in this really small town in Virginia, and he's stressed as can be trying to deal with the 2 kids. And I went down because he said he hadn't got to speak to an adult in like months, to have like an adult conversation. So we went down and had dinner when I was visiting my parents a few years ago, and we had a drink, and I said, where's your recycle bin? And he's like, oh, I don't do that. And I was like, I wanted to give him a hard time because the conservationist in me is just like, do it. Although now, you know, recycling is a whole complicated thing, and who knows if it's really being recycled. Right. But I wanted to say, you know, what's going on? And he said, well, to recycle in this town, I have to drive it 40 minutes to the other side of town, and I don't have time to do that. And, you know, I'm stressed because of the kids, and it's just not happening. And so the more we can figure out how to feel better, which is a really individual thing, you know, what do you start with? I'm a big fan of starting with meditation and mindfulness. I think no matter what's going on, those can help people out. But it's kind of, you have to do what makes sense for you. But then as far as what to do to help out, again, that's personal as well. You know, what can you do? But just starting small, and even just thinking, is there like one small thing I could change in my life today that might be helpful? Can I recycle? Can I purposefully use a little less water? Can I try to get things in packaging that I don't have to throw away? Or, you know, it's just small things, but just take the steps that you can do, and try not to get overwhelmed. I think it's important.
Yeah, and obviously the desire to change something outside yourself is not something that everybody has, especially right now. Although, I think one of the things we're seeing right now is a lot more one-on-one kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is for you. Kelvin and I talk at least once a week, so we've been, so we have an idea how it is for each other. But I'm finally starting to meet the neighbors I didn't know.
Yes.
We made it a point when we first moved to the neighborhood, and we had our house warming, we invited the whole street. Mm-hmm. And some of them came out, and they were surprised to be invited. And some of the people who didn't come out came over later and said, hey, I was surprised to get your invite. I couldn't make it. I'm sorry, but I wanted to introduce myself. So we know a lot of our neighbors, but I met people 2 doors down last night. We happened to be out walking the dogs at the same time. I've got an elderly neighbor next door. We always call before we go to the grocery store. Hey, do you need anything? I got a single mom 2 doors down who's going nuts with her two girls at home, homeschooling and trying to get out in the yard to do a little yoga after everything. We check in on them, and everybody loves the puppy and the baby. So we share at at a safe distance. What do you hope we learn from this?
Yeah, my neighborhood is kind of the same. I've met people that I definitely have learned more names now. Just the people that used to just say hi have now introduced themselves, which is nice. I hope that we really see how connected we all really are and how we need to be connected. We talk about that in yoga. We recognize that we are all one, right? And I think this virus is showing us that. I hope people are realizing what you do affects another person. Like if you are a carrier and you touch something and then somebody who's immune compromised touches it, they could die, right? So the choices that we make directly affect other people. That's true all the time, not just during this virus crisis. The choices you make on a daily basis affect other people, whether you realize it or not. I haven't taught in a while, but I used to teach a workshop about choices and how choices create our reality and choices create, what's going on in our world. And so I hope that people are seeing, the choices that you make affect other people and affect the planet. And I hope also that people can see, it's meant to be that way. Like we need to be connected. We need connection. With this isolation, I hope people are seeing, all this being on the phones and being disconnected from each other doesn't really feel good. You want to reach out. You want to have real human contact, and I hope people are appreciating that and feeling the need for that now too.
Yeah, Kelvin, you're a hugger. Do you want to talk about how that's affecting you a little bit?
I'm a hugger too.
I don't like it.
Oh, you don't like hugging?
We had We had. I'm a Toastmaster, right? So we have our Toastmaster.
Oh, cool.
Our Toastmasters group is very, very, very close knit group. Great.
Yeah.
And there's this one woman in the club. Her name is Ruth Parmenter. Ruth Parmenter is her husband's 91. All right, so she's and she is my friend. And before we abandoned our meetings, about 20 seconds ahead of the restaurant, going, "You can't come here no more." Because my thing, I'm known as the district hugger. I hug everybody who will stand still long enough to get hugged.
Yeah.
So whenever I go into a meeting, Ruth is like, "Kelvin, get over here, give me my hug," and I'm like, "Ruth, we can't do that now. We got to maintain some distance." And she says, "I don't want to hear any of that crap. Come give me my hug." No. Okay, but when I come over, we can't breathe. She said, "Okay, but get over here." All right. So it's just fun. But yeah, I miss that, and I'm a social eating guy, right? So I like meeting my friends for breakfast or lunch and having that kind. Josh and I did that for one of the reasons we have this podcast, because we used to do that here when he was living here, and we could go have lunch every couple of weeks, most. And then he moved to Savannah. That's a tough trip to make.
Yeah, it's a long way for lunch.
Yeah, it's a long way for lunch. But yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely that guy, and me and what's that book about? I forget it. I can't think of it right now. Love languages. Yeah, I'm definitely a hugger, and so I'm missing that, and I'm good on the phone, but
Yeah, I'd much rather be in person too.
We need to get back to where I can get my hug time in.
Yeah, I'm a hugger too. So in Hawaii, as a culture, not just Hawaiian culture, but local island culture, everyone hugs and kisses on the cheek. Like as soon as you meet someone, you don't shake hands. You hug and kiss on the cheek, even if you've never met the person in your life, And so I'm very used to that. And then now that I moved back to the mainland, I have to like remind myself when I meet brand new people that they might not want a hug. So I was like,
And now I think somebody told me that France, they kind of outlawed that whole kiss on the cheek thing.
yeah.
So much of that. But yeah. So I'm definitely that guy, and I don't. And I observe other people when they've got issues with, distance and personal zones and stuff like that. That's all fine. But generally speaking, people gravitate to me. And when somebody needs a hug, I'm the guy.
Yeah, me too.
I should charge for it,
Right?
I'd give it rich. But
I have some friends here that they only allow hugs from me. And it's funny because we'll be in like a group of people and I'll see one of them, I'll give them a hug. And then somebody else will be like, I thought you didn't take hugs. And they're like, oh, no, only hugs from Jin. So
we had this one guy in our Toastmasters club, and he talked about me being the district hugger. And he says, and I'm a man, I don't even like hugs, but I'll hug Kelvin.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the other things that I do that I hadn't talked about yet was I do Hawaiian Lomi, which is Hawaiian healing arts. And it kind of looks like a massage, but it's a lot more to it. There's a big talking component. Like I talk to you first. I can't just say, oh, your shoulder hurts, so I'll get the knot out. It's like, what's going on in your life? Why does your shoulder hurt? That kind of thing. But at the end of a session, I've been stretching you. My friends call it lazy yoga. You lay there and I like do a bunch of stretches for you. Yeah. Doing all these things. And at the very end, I have people put their arms out like this. And I'm, okay, this is the most important part. And then I just give them a hug. And when it's the first time, they're like, what is going on? They're like, oh. And sometimes I say that's the most important part of the whole entire session is just having a hug.
I always considered hugs, from good people to be like the last non-sexual expression of affection. And it's just I can't hug. I'm a little bit handicapped here, but I got 4 stuffed animals downstairs, so I'm a Reiki practitioner. So I have to hug one, give them Reiki. So and then we'll just farm them out to somebody. But
that's cool. You do Reiki. That's awesome. Yeah, there's an energy work component to the Lomi work as well. So that's really cool.
So that's me. So we I don't know when we're gonna get back to being able to hug again.
Yeah, I hope it's sooner than later, but I don't know.
It ain't worth going to the hospital for.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. It's like if you're trying to make someone feel better and you stick them in the hospital, that you've just undone all the work you tried to do.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. I'm already down to only using half a breath when I go outside anyway. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But, yep, that's me.
Cool.
And Josh is not actually a hugger, but I think.
I hug my friends. I hug my friends. I hug my family. I don't. Yeah.
Everybody else.
I'll wave at you.
They don't actually see the force field that comes up when they come around.
Like, oh, you're a hug. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So. That's it.
But I think I went to Kauai a couple years ago, and when I came back, we did you talked about being connected. I think we did an episode just on like aloha, right? Which is
cool.
Shared breath, basically like a recognition that we're all sharing this. I think even now, it's even more now, right? We're talking about sharing air is like, like actually the things I breathe out, you're breathing in.
Exactly.
Like we can see this.
Yeah.
This is it's how this disease spreads, but it's how like our life force spreads from in our circle.
Right. Totally. Yeah. From a yogic perspective, we talk about breath work, but we're really meaning energy work, and the breath we share is really that sharing of energy. And on a Hawaiian level, when you were on Kauai, did you see anybody do a Honi where they actually like push their foreheads together and breathe in?
No.
So local Hawaiian culture is when you greet, hug, kiss on the cheek. But Hawaii, like actual Hawaiian culture, they have a greeting where instead of hugging, shaking hands, any of those things, what they do is you touch your forehead together. It's like very kind of an intimate greeting. You touch your forehead together and you both breathe in. And it's called a Honi, and it's like the the ancient Hawaiian way of greeting.
Wow.
And so before I became a Lomi practitioner, I had someone work on me, and then he invited me to this event. And I met the woman who I didn't know at the time was the teacher of their school. And I didn't know she was the teacher, but I got to this event, and I felt like the only white person there. And I felt like I stood out, and I got like blue hair, and like, they're having this like cultural event, and I'm trying to be inconspicuous.
I didn't notice it was blue. Check.
Oh,
Yeah.
It is. Wow.
And so I'm like trying to be inconspicuous. I didn't know really anyone. I knew one person, and when I got there, I was like, okay, this is a cultural event. They're gonna Honi me, like they're gonna do this thing, and I'm like, I like hugging, but I'm not used to, like, you try not to headbutt when you do it. It's kind of like a kind of a crazy thing to do. Like, oh, they're gonna do this thing. And so I knew one guy there, aside from the person who invited me, and he walked up, and he and I Honied, and I did it successfully, and we didn't bump heads, and I was really proud of myself. And then a couple other people met me and did it. I was feeling pretty good about it because I hadn't done it that much. And then this woman, we had this whole interaction, and then during this ceremony, and then she comes up to introduce herself to me, and we started to Honi with the foreheads together, and then we both changed our mind and decided to hug and kiss on the cheek. But she went to one side and I went to the other. And instead of kissing on the cheek, we kissed smack on the lips. She's like this amazing, like, big, beautiful Hawaiian woman, and she backs up and just laughed, like the best laugh I've ever heard in my life. And then she just goes, "That was great." I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm all embarrassed. And then she's like, "Hi, so I'm the teacher." And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my.
Hi, I'm the one who was gonna hide in the corner. I guess I don't have that option anymore.
Right, exactly. And then she ended up inviting me to come see the school, and that's how I got into all of it. But it was
Wow.
very funny.
Oh, that had to be that was my kind of moment, actually.
Oh no, it was hilarious. And like, I always love moments that then turn into great stories, and like now she's one of my teachers and a big part of my life, even though I don't get to see her much. And I love that was our like beginning, and she thinks it's hilarious too. She's like, that was just awesome.
Yeah, we'll get back to those one of these days. One of these days. Yeah. This stuff can't last forever, right?
Yeah, here's hoping.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Thanks, guys.
So now go ahead.
I was going to say, so you got any other passions you haven't shared with us at this point, as far as your activism and so forth?
As far as activism goes, I think we've pretty much covered it. Pretty busy with that one. I would like to get back to more advocacy as far as the environment goes. I don't want to go back into science, but science communication, I think, is really, really important. There's a lot of important science going on. There's a lot of lack of ability to explain that important science to the general public, and I think that's really important and something that I wanted to get back into.
Well, I could use a little explaining myself, because I tend to not get real deep into things that, I mean, there's so much right now in the world that you can completely get absorbed into. You can't do it all. And one of the reasons that I like Josh is because he's got a whole head full of stuff that I have no compulsion to know. So I just like, hey, Josh, what about this? And then he's got to break it down so the Kelvin.
Yeah. And then I have the rabbit hole problem where I go and I'd learn as much as I can about it and simplify it. So, I might read 5 books and come out with like 3 sentences. And it's really worth the time.
The simplification process is what a lot of people don't do. And
exactly.
Just back what they just read, and I'm like, that doesn't say nothing to me.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I feel is lacking, There's a lot of scientists who do a lot of amazing things, and not to rag on scientists, but they can't explain it to your average person to save their life. And when you start talking over people, that doesn't help, You have to be able to break it down in a way.
Oh, he's just trying to be sneaky. No,
exactly.
Those are the words he knows.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You got to talk so other scientists can understand what he's saying.
Yeah, sometimes.
and there's kind of this in between you said your partner's a sociologist. Like there's this kind of like in between, not exactly a hard science, but
Don't tell him that. He gets upset.
Well, but I mean, some of sociology is hard. Some of it is not. If you look at like, but yeah, I think there's this kind of new kind of in between realm where you got thinkers like Eric Weinstein and Nassim Taleb, who like have these great, huge, overarching ideas, and they've got the big words, but they try to. Their version of simplifying it is writing 600 pages of small words,
right?
And it also poses a problem. So it's like, well, we can simplify this and make it short. I'm like, no, the way you made it short is not simple.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if this is a time when we can get those people together, and say, okay, well, you've got the big concept, and you've got the words that everybody understands. Can you explain it to that person over there?
Yeah.
Because now you have time to do that.
Yeah. We should have a group of like bridge people that can understand all of the whole thing, and then make that bridge to break it down to other people who need the simplified version. That would be good.
Yeah, they have that in computer science. You got the programmer, and then you got the guy who explains to the guy who's got to translate what the customer wants to the programmer, and then what the programmer just said.
Yeah. Yeah, like translators. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. We just have scientific translators. Right.
There you go.
Like blah, 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 blah. No. Yeah.
That's it. So cool.
All right. So this is the part where we usually say, hey, is there anything we forgot to talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, my goodness. No, I feel like we did really great, actually.
Okay.
I can always keep talking, but...
Where do you hang out online? Where would you like people to find you?
Yeah, so it's really easy. My website is just jincarter.com, and it's GIN like the drink, and then last name is Carter, CARTER. So jincarter.com. And two things, I guess, that are most relevant to check out there right now is if you do jincarter.com/online, you can see when I'm doing public classes online. And I'm shifting the public classes out of Zoom right now, but they're on Facebook and Instagram. A few times a week I have public classes. And you can also connect with me to do private sessions and stuff like that. And then I am launching a podcast right now also. And so that is at jincarter.com/theblue. And it's called The Blue. And the idea is that we're getting deep into subjects that people haven't thought about before. And the preview episode is up on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And the new episode should be up later today, the first episode. And yeah.
And so you'll have another episode probably by the time we launch, because we'll come out about 10 days from now. So.
Yeah, we're going to be doing every other week, so that'll be about right.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Great. Well, so thank you again for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. It was nice connecting with you both.
Yeah, come on back sometime. We're
okay.
We're here.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Enjoy your day, my friend.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye!
A Better Humanhood production.